An interesting fact you didn't know? All right, this knowledge seems interesting, and it's completely accurate, according to science.
Modern life is easy, suspiciously easy. So easy, in fact, that your great-great-great 50,000 times great-grandparents wouldn't survive 5 minutes in it. Number 1. Milk. Yes, milk. Imagine being a caveman. You've just outrun a wolf, face planted into a bush of mildly poisonous berries, and now you see a weird white liquid dripping from a large, smelly animal. Would you drink it? Of course not. You're not insane. But flash forward a few thousand years, and suddenly humans are pouring it over their breakfast sugar flakes like it's holy water. Milk is a dietary staple for billions of people today. But here, as the prehistoric twist, your distant ancestors couldn't digest it, not even a sip. See, most mammals lose the ability to break down lactose, the sugar in milk, after they stop breastfeeding. That includes most early humans. If they tried to chug a glass of milk, it would have gone straight to digestive warzone mode. We're talking cramps, bloating, explosive betrayal from your own intestines. Not ideal if you're also running from saber-toothed cats. The ability to digest milk as an adult is actually a genetic mutation. It's spread in some populations due to, you guessed it, evolutionary desperation. During food shortages, milk was a lifesaver if you could handle it. And over generations, some groups evolved to keep that milk-digesting enzyme, lactase, permanently switched on. So yeah, today it's normal to down a caramel frappuccino with extra whipped cream. But to a caveman, that's basically biohazardous cow juice. And drinking it could very literally kill them, or at least leave them curled up behind a boulder in gastrointestinal agony. Number 2, sitting still for hours. You, right now, are probably doing something lethal to your prehistoric self. You're sitting for a long time, maybe even on a soft chair, with a backrest, and no one's actively trying to eat you. How quaint. Back in caveman times, sitting still for more than a few minutes was basically a death sentence. Not because the act of sitting was dangerous, but because everything else around you was. Predators, rival tribes, wildfires, cliffs you didn't notice until your cousin Carl disappeared down one. All constant threats. Staying alert and mobile was essential for not getting erased from the gene pool. But now, desk jobs, Netflix marathons, 10-hour gaming sessions, all while slowly turning your spine into a question mark. Fun fact, modern sedentary lifestyles are linked to heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and you guessed it, early death. It's like your body is screaming, hey, remember when we used to run from lions? Let's do that again sometime. Your ergonomic office chair might feel like a luxury now, but to a prehistoric human, extended sitting equals slow suicide. And honestly, they wouldn't be wrong. Number 3, brushing your teeth. Ah yes. Toothpaste, the minty fresh ritual that convinces you you're doing something productive at 7 a.m. while mentally screaming into the void. But here's the thing. For most of human history, brushing your teeth would have been not just weird, it might have gotten you killed. Why? Because walking around with a foam-covered stick in your mouth makes you look and sound exactly like someone in distress, especially if you're frothing at the mouth while hacking up last night's regret stew. In the wild, those visuals and sounds aren't hygiene, they're injured prey, and predators love injured prey. If you were lucky, maybe your tribe had access to charcoal or ash to help clean teeth, which, ironically, probably did help a bit. But standing still for several minutes with a twig in your mouth, congratulations, you're now the easiest meal in the forest. Fast forward to now, and we do this twice a day with fluoride-infused foam and Bluetooth-enabled toothbrushes that judge our technique, but give that to a caveman, and he'd either attack you or assume you were performing a very ineffective exorcism. Number 4, hot showers. Ah, the modern miracle. Hot water, on demand, falling from the sky like angel sweat. But for your average caveman, a hot shower would have been interpreted as either divine punishment or a death trap. First of all, they didn't even know what hot running water was. Water came in 2 flavors, cold from the river or colder from the rain. So imagine dragging a Paleolithic hunter into your bathroom, flipping on the faucet, and dousing him with steaming liquid. He'd assume he was being boiled alive by a witch and standing still under falling water. That's not bathing, that's surrendering to gravity, to a prehistoric brain. Exposing your naked, slippery self in one place for 10 minutes while surrounded by echoey tile noises is basically broadcasting, I am vulnerable and delicious. Come eat me. But there's another twist. Hot showers mess with your body's survival instincts. They lower your blood pressure, relax your muscles, and dull your alertness. Great if you're headed to bed. Horrible if you're reliving in a time where your bed is a patch of itchy grass and your neighbor is a bear with anger issues. Sure, showers help keep us clean. But back then, being too clean could be risky. You'd lose that glorious layer of natural scent, camouflage the musky blend of dirt, smoke, and Haven tea, bathed in 3 seasons that kept predators and bugs from honing in on your freshly scrubbed, lavender-scented skin. In short, the modern shower is a comfy ritual we take for granted. To a caveman, it's a steaming ambush machine designed to lull you into a vulnerable, slippery demise. Number 5. Your alarm clock, beep, beep, beep. Nothing screams civilized like being jolted, awake by a tiny screaming box that's trained to ruin your dreams. Now imagine this from the perspective of an early human. You're deep in a survival nap, dreaming of mammoth burgers, when suddenly shrieking metal noises. There's no snooze button in the savannah. Your reaction? Leap up, weapon in hand, heart pounding, ready to throw hands at the thunder god himself. The idea of forcing your body to wake up at a specific time, regardless of when you went to sleep, is pure madness from an evolutionary standpoint. Your circadian rhythm, that natural sleep-wake cycle baked into your biology, is built to align with the sun. Not office meetings, not math class, not leg day. You wake up when the sun rises, or when a lion steps on your tent. Alarms hijack that system. They jolt you out of the middle of a sleep cycle, triggering a cortisol surge, fight-or-flight mode, and a general sense of doom. Over time, that chronic sleep disruption messes with memory, metabolism, immunity, basically, all the systems you need to not die. So while we treat alarm clocks like responsible adulting tools, your caveman ancestors would have treated them like a threat to be smashed with a rock and then buried forever. Number 6. Sunglasses. You throw on sunglasses to look cool, to block UV rays, to avoid making eye contact with chatty strangers at the grocery store. All very reasonable 21st century behaviors. But for a caveman, covering your eyes in the middle of a life-or-death ecosystem, that's a suicide note with a designer frame. Let's get real. Back then, your eyes were your #1 survival tool. Seeing a flash of movement in the tall grass could be dinner, could be death. Either way, you'd better see it before it sees you. So imagine someone willingly blurring their vision or darkening their peripheral awareness with pieces of tinted animal gut or, God forbid, reflective plastic. Wearing sunglasses in the wild would have made you the tribal liability. Oh, Don T-mind oog, he can TC predators coming because he's too busy blocking out the haters. And let's talk about the actual light filtering. Modern sunglasses can distort contrast and color, making it harder to spot subtle cues in nature, like a snake in the brush or a cliff edge, you were hoping not to yeet yourself off of. To make it worse, early humans relied heavily on eye contact for communication. Expressions, warnings, trust signals, all were in the eyes. Walk into a Neolithic camp with your pupils hidden and reflective lenses staring blankly back, and you've basically announced, "Hi, I'm either possessed or about to betray you." These days, sunglasses are practical and fashionable. But in the Paleolithic era, they'd make you the most suspicious, least trustworthy, and most likely to die guy in the tribe. Congratulations, you're the cool one and the first to get eaten. Number 7. Processed sugar. Imagine handing a caveman a frosted donut. His mouth would implode from the sheer sweetness. His pancreas would file for early retirement. And then, most likely, he'd die. Why? Because the human body was never built to handle the concentrated, weaponized bliss that is modern sugar. For millions of years, sweetness was rare and precious. The occasional berry, the odd honeycomb if you were brave enough to steal it from angry bees. Sugar meant energy, survival, dopamine party. Now it's in everything. Bread, soup, salad dressing, air, probably. Your modern body has developed some tolerance, but your prehistoric ancestors would have experienced a metabolic meltdown after downing a soda, blood sugar spikes, insulin chaos, and possibly a full-body rejection of this so-called treat. Even worse, refined sugar tricks your brain. It floods the reward system like UVA, just achieved something great, like catching a deer or inventing fire. Except, you just inhaled a cupcake. Now your brain thinks that's the new standard for joy, and suddenly berries don't cut it anymore. Now you're chasing that high like a Stone Age sugar junkie. So while today we casually eat sugar by the spoonful, your ancestors would treated it like a mysterious poison that tastes suspiciously amazing. Right before collapsing into a twitching, glucose-glazed coma. Number 8. Wearing headphones, you're walking through a city street, earbuds in, jamming to your favorite playlist. Maybe it's a podcast about why you're sad. Maybe it's lo-fi beats to stare wistfully out windows, too. Either way, your ears are closed for business. To a caveman, that's like putting a "come eat me" sign on your back. Let's put it this way. Your ears are your early warning system. Before we had locks, alarms, pepper spray, or even walls, we had sound. A twig snapping behind you wasn't just ambience, it was a potentially life-ending situation. Cavemen didn't have the luxury of tuning out. They were permanently on edge, like caffeinated meerkats in a haunted forest. Enter headphones. You're now voluntarily deaf to the world while pumping manufactured noises directly into your brain. It's like saying, "I trust my environment completely," which is hilarious because even now, you're one surprised dog bark away from heart failure. And let's not forget the psychological side. Auditory input shapes your awareness. Your ancestors relied on subtle environmental cues to hunt, hide, or decide if it was a good time to panic. Blocking all that out in favor of auto-tuned heartbreak anthems, total evolutionary betrayal. Back in the Stone Age, if you couldn't hear a rustle, a roar, or your friend urgently whispering, "Don't move, there's a giant spider on your back," you didn't make it to the next sunrise. So while headphones are a vibe today, for a prehistoric human, they'd be the equivalent of blindfolding yourself in the middle of a thunderstorm and hoping for the best. Spoiler, the best rarely happens. Number 9. Sleeping alone in silence. Modern humans romanticize the idea of sleeping alone. You've got blackout curtains, a white noise machine, a mattress that remembers your spine like a loyal but squishy dog. You even have temperature settings. Luxury, right? But to a caveman, absolute horror. Silence wasn't peaceful, it was ominous. Your ancestors slept in groups, huddled, grunting, snoring, smelling. It was a warm, smelly orchestra of survival. Someone always kept half an eye open. Someone else muttered in their sleep about firewood or ghosts. That constant human noise was comfort. It meant you weren't about to be eaten by something that had perfect silence as its whole personality. So now, when you're lying alone in a dark, dead quiet room, no humans, no crackling fire, no soft farts of safety from nearby tribe members, your lizard brain panics. It's like, where are the people? Why is IT so quiet? We're gonna die. That SY silence before bed can sometimes feel eerie. Your body has been trained for thousands of years to expect chaotic background noise as the lullaby of life. Alone in the dark, even the smallest creak becomes the footstep of doom. So yeah, your memory foam bed and ambient rainforest playlist might sound like self-care. But to a caveman, it's basically like sleeping in a predator buffet with a "Please Dante eat me" sign written in sleep paralysis. Number 10. Wearing clothes all the time. Modern society loves clothes. We wear them at work, at weddings, even in saunas, which, let's be honest, is just our stubborn refusal to accept naked steam joy. But for your prehistoric ancestors, constantly covering your skin would have been the biological equivalent of fighting nature with a napkin. See, early humans didn't wear clothes for fashion. They wore them for not freezing to death reasons. Animal skins, bark, leaves, whatever delayed hypothermia, or sunburn, and even then, they were optional. Warm climate, birthday suit time. Cold climate, one semi-damp fur, cape shared between 7 people. Hygiene, never heard of her. But today, we out here putting fabric barriers between us and the elements, like our pores have secrets to hide. Problem is, your skin actually wants to breathe. And no, not in the fake Instagram way. Your skin uses exposure to light and air for things like vitamin D synthesis and thermoregulation, rapid in cotton, polyester, and denial 24/7, and you end up sweaty, nutrient deficient, and covered in whatever bacteria's decided to throw a party in your armpit cave. Also, let's not forget movement. Try sprinting barefoot in tight jeans through a muddy field. Now imagine doing it while being chased by a bear. That's the kind of slapstick failure your caveman self would never tolerate. Clothing may have spared us frostbite and awkward conversations, but the sheer amount we wear today indoors at night. on Zoom calls would have felt claustrophobic, unnecessary, and wildly impractical to anyone born before tailors existed. Basically, if a caveman watched you layer 3 outfits for fashion while standing inside a heated building, they'd assume you were either terminally ill or preparing for war. Number 11. Extreme cleanliness. You, yes you, with your antibacterial soap, pH-balanced shampoo, and 12-step skincare routine. Your caveman ancestors would like a word. A muddy, greasy, bacteria-laden word. See? Back then, cleanliness wasn't a goal, it was a fluke. You got clean when it rained, or when you fell into a river while chasing a squirrel. Bathing was rare. Smelling bad was normal. Microbes. They didn't know what those were, but they were absolutely covered in them. Fast forward to today, and we've gone full germ exorcist. We scrub away natural oils, douse our skin in synthetic fragrances, and kill 99.9% of bacteria, including the ones that were actually helping us. Your skin and gut microbiomes, basically little ecosystems of friendly microbes, evolved to thrive in dirt, soap, sanitizer, and compulsive scrubbing. That's chemical warfare on your body's peacekeepers. Ironically, all this cleaning may actually weaken your immune system. Ever heard of the hygiene hypothesis? It's the idea that exposure to germs early in life trains your immune system not to overreact to harmless things like pollen, pets, or peanuts. Less exposure equals more allergies, more autoimmune chaos. So, while being clean is great for avoiding plagues and dating apps, our obsession with sterility might be backfiring. A caveman watching you panic sanitize your hands after touching a doorknob would probably just shrug and lick a tree. Number 12. Reading? Yes, reading. That deeply intellectual activity we associate with wisdom, progress, and pretending we understand Dostoevsky. But for your caveman ancestors, staring silently at a bunch of symbols on a dead tree, absolutely suspicious behavior. Let's think about it. Early humans were wired for immediate sensory input. Movement, sound, facial expressions. Communication was loud, messy, and usually involved pointing at something and grunting like you meant it. Reading, on the other hand, is invisible thinking. You sit motionless, eyes flicking across symbols, face blank. No words coming out, basically the body language of someone plotting either dark magic or an elaborate betrayal. And while we now know reading activates entire neural networks and lights up the brain like a Christmas tree, back then, your tribe would have looked at you, head down, not hunting or gathering, and gone, ah, he's broken. Plus, reading is unnatural in evolutionary terms. Our brains didn't evolve to read. They adapted painfully using visual and language regions to decipher invented squiggles. That's why kids have to learn it slowly, and why reading in a second language makes your brain feel like it's lifting weights in clown shoes. And don't forget the social danger. Sitting quietly alone, distracted by imaginary thoughts, meant you weren't watching for predators. Or worse, you were seen as antisocial, in a world where bonding with your tribe was literal survival. Being the quiet one with the symbols probably got you assigned to firewood duty until further notice. So yeah, reading makes us smarter, expands our empathy, and lets us pretend we're above reality TV. But to a caveman, it looked like you were silently losing your mind and probably needed a good bonk to the head. Number 13. Deep breathing exercises. You inhale slowly. Hold it. Exhale. Ah, mindfulness. Centering. Tuning into the now. Meanwhile, your inner caveman is screaming, "Why are we breathing like this? Who's attacking?" Deep breathing might calm your modern nervous system, but for a prehistoric human, changing your breathing pattern was the result of stress, not the cure. Fast, shallow breaths. You were running, holding your breath, hiding, big inhale, bracing for impact, slow exhale, dying, the end. Now, imagine doing that on purpose, for no visible reason, while sitting cross-legged on a rock. Congratulations, you're officially the tribe's most confusing person. Ironically, the science behind deep breathing is solid. It activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the chill-out switch. It lowers cortisol, slows your heart rate, and tells your brain, we're safe. But that only makes sense in the absence of wild animals trying to dismantle your torso. To a caveman, seeing someone voluntarily simulate dying would, VE prompted either a swift rescue attempt or the kind of avoidance usually reserved for cave mold and cursed artifacts. So, while today we associate breathwork with wellness influencers and overpriced yoga mats to your ancestors, it would have looked like the prelude to either spiritual possession or a very slow, very polite medical emergency. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.